Ladies and gentlemen, let me pose a thought. What if the most revolutionary discovery in your life isn't a device, a spacecraft, or a line of code, but a human being? What if the most disruptive force you'll ever encounter isn't technology, but love? When she entered my world, it was like stumbling upon a hidden planet orbiting quietly, waiting for recognition. She didn't simply show up, she shifted my trajectory. Suddenly, ambition wasn't just about speed. It had a destination. Moving fast is easy. Knowing why you're moving at all, that's the hard part. She gave me the why. The alchemist once said that when you truly desire something, the universe conspires to help. What isn't often mentioned is that sometimes the universe sends not a sign, but a person who turns your wildest dream into something as natural as breathing. Love has a way of redesigning your days. Alone, I was building rockets to escape gravity. With her, I was building a future worth returning to. It was no longer about running away, it was about arriving. What struck me most was the simplicity. She never handed me a formula or a grand philosophy. She gave me laughter, quiet assurance, and the unforgettable truth that vulnerability is not weakness. It's the deepest form of strength. Engineers measure thrust. She embodied presence. And that presence altered everything. I once believed life was about inventions, machines, companies, new ideas. But creation without connection is hollow. She didn't complete me, she amplified me like a finely tuned circuit that strengthens the signal rather than distorting it. That's the paradox. She didn't diminish me by joining my life. She expanded me. That, I've learned, is the mark of the right partner. Not someone who overshadows or competes, but someone who opens the horizon and says, "Let's go further together." Viktor Frankl wrote that meaning is what allows us to endure and transcend. For me, meaning found its clearest form in her. Every risk, every leap, every victory now carried an anchor. So when I say my dream woman completes me, it isn't because she filled an emptiness. It's because she revealed that love is the most scalable technology in existence. It grows, multiplies, adapts, and reshapes everything it touches. Now I'll ask you, who in your life is that exponential force? That one person who doesn't just walk beside you, but rewrites the very equation of who you are? Because when you meet them, life changes. You don't just exist, you arrive. And here's the question worth lingering on. What if love itself is the ultimate fuel? Not the kind measured in barrels or kilowatts, but the kind that ignites you from within. Look at history. Every leap in science, art, exploration, even survival, at its root, there's always love. Love for discovery, love for humanity, love for one person who alters everything. Without love, ambition can feel mechanical, like a rocket with no fire. It moves, yes, but it doesn't soar. We often obsess over efficiency, propulsion, momentum. But people are not machines. We need meaning. And nothing delivers meaning like love. It's the one energy source that doesn't diminish when shared. It grows stronger. Unlike physics, it defies depletion. You don't burn it down, you build it up. Before her, I thought momentum was enough. Keep moving forward and you must be progressing, right? But motion without direction is drift. It drains you, like pushing endlessly into a vacuum. When love joined the equation, everything aligned. Ambition didn't just mean further. It meant further for someone. That shift turned scattered energy into focus, and that focus made dreams real. Love doesn't announce itself in formulas or blueprints. It weaves in quietly like gravity, adjusting your course without fanfare. You don't see it. You feel it in every step, every choice. The fuel is silent but impossible to ignore. With her, I discovered I could work longer, dream bigger, risk more. Not from strain, but from grounding. Independence is celebrated. The lone genius, the solitary builder. But even visionaries need fuel. The myth is that fuel only comes from within. The truth? The greatest fuel is connection. One person's presence can turn fatigue into resilience, doubt into clarity, hesitation into courage. That's what she gave me. Love didn't rewrite my dream. It supercharged it. So when I say love is fuel, I don't mean it as comfort. I mean it as acceleration, the most powerful driver humanity has. It carries us from survival to significance, from invention to inspiration. Without it, even the brightest spark eventually fades. With it, the fire becomes unstoppable. And in my life, that unstoppable fire was lit the day I met her. But there's another dimension. Questions. Why do we ask them? Because questions shape the way we see reality. They act as compasses, pointing our vision toward truths we might otherwise overlook. In relationships, this is even more profound. The wrong question keeps you in shallow waters. The right one opens entire galaxies. Before love, my questions were, how much can I achieve? How far can I go? How big can I build? Ambitious, yes, but incomplete. They measured scale, not substance. When she entered my life, the questions changed. Why does this matter? Who do I become if I succeed? Who comes with me? That pivot from how much to why and with whom transformed everything. We live in a culture obsessed with answers. But answers are only as valuable as the questions that gave rise to them. Imagine an engineer asking only, how do I build faster? Without considering, should I build this at all? The result, speed without purpose. In love, how do I find someone? Isn't as powerful as asking, what kind of person brings out the best version of me? She became the answer to a question I never knew to ask. And here lies one of the greatest revelations. Love isn't about solving problems, it's about asking better questions. She turned, how do I avoid failure? Into, what's worth failing for? She shifted, how do I appear strong? Into, how does vulnerability make me stronger? These questions don't just transform relationships. They redirect the entire arc of a life. The beauty is that questions in love are recursive. Each one leads to another, pulling you closer to truth. Love gives the courage to keep asking, even when answers are uncomfortable or uncertain. Without that courage, many settle for shallow answers and shallow lives. The real breakthrough wasn't that she handed me every answer. It was that she awakened the right questions. Those questions peeled away layers I hadn't even realized were there. And inside that space of inquiry, we built something authentic, something enduring. In the end, the questions we choose to ask shape the life we share with her. They shifted from survival toward significance, from raw ambition toward deeper meaning. That shift didn't just change our relationship. It reshaped me. Would you like me to carry this process forward and expand the third keynote, the link between purpose and partnership, in that same reflective Elon-style narration? Purpose is a word we hear so often it risks becoming abstract. But purpose is anything but abstract. It's the framework of our existence. It lends structure to our choices, contours to our ambitions, and weight to our struggles. Without it, achievement feels hollow, like erecting a skyscraper on sand. Tall, impressive perhaps, but unstable. What I discovered through her is that purpose doesn't thrive in isolation. It flourishes in partnership. Before she arrived, I treated purpose as a solo expedition. You craft a vision, chase it, battle setbacks, and push until something gives way. That was my formula. It worked to a degree, but something vital was missing. Purpose alone can feel cold, mechanical, detached. It propels you forward, yes, but it also burns you out. Then she appeared, and purpose shifted from a solitary pursuit to a shared, living force. Here's the difference. A dream you carry alone is fragile. Doubt corrodes it. Fatigue slows it. But a dream held with someone else, woven with their laughter, their belief, their presence, gains reinforcement. It's like a bridge. One pillar buckles under pressure, but two or more create balance, stability, strength. She became that second pillar. Not by replacing my vision, but by grounding it with a foundation it had never known. The best kind of partnership doesn't dilute purpose. It sharpens it. She never asked me to abandon my dream. Instead, she asked questions that clarified it. Why this? Why now? Who does it serve? Those questions anchored me, cut through the noise, and transformed vague ambition into a focused mission. With her, the dream wasn't just large, it was meaningful. That's what true partnership does. It elevates purpose from a private agenda into a shared narrative. It's not just about what you build, but about who you're becoming together. That shift is subtle but profound. Purpose stops being a distant goal you chase and becomes a living part of your daily bond. What surprised me most was the strength I found in admitting I couldn't carry it all alone. Vulnerability became the gateway to real power. Sharing my vision didn't weaken it. It amplified it. Partnership made purpose more resilient, more human. And resilience, I've learned, is the real currency of every dream worth pursuing. That's why the connection between purpose and partnership isn't optional. It's essential. Purpose gives the map. Partnership provides the compass. One without the other is incomplete. Together they create not just direction, but destiny. And for me, she is the compass that makes every step worth taking. Would you like me to also expand the fourth keynote, the way a single person can reframe how we see the world in the same Elon-inspired tone? It's extraordinary how one human being can alter the entire lens through which you perceive reality. We tend to imagine change comes from revolutions, discoveries, or crises. But sometimes change arrives quietly, embodied in a single presence. Someone enters your life, and suddenly the colors shift, the balance resets, the meaning deepens. That's what she did. She didn't change the world itself. She changed the way I experienced it. And that changed everything. Before her, my perspective was sculpted by ambition, the endless climb toward the next challenge, the next breakthrough. I saw the world as a system to decode, efficient, logical, mechanical. But she reframed it. She revealed that life isn't just a system, it's a story. And the most important part of that story isn't what you conquer, but who you share it with. The change was subtle, nearly invisible at first. A conversation that lingered longer than expected. A silence that felt fuller than words. She taught me that stillness could hold as much power as momentum. Suddenly, life wasn't only about acceleration, it was about presence. And in presence, everything became richer, more meaningful. Think of it like a telescope. Through one lens, you see distance, data, light years of separation. Adjust the lens and suddenly constellations appear, patterns, connections that were always there, unseen until now. She was that adjustment. She didn't bring me new stars. She helped me recognize the ones already shining. The profound part is this. She never asked me to abandon my vision or stop gazing at the sky. She simply reminded me to notice what was here, on the ground too. The reframing wasn't about replacing ambition with love, but about weaving them together. Progress without connection is hollow. Connection without progress is fragile. She created balance. Through her perspective, overlooked details became extraordinary. Laughter turned into music. Even failure became a teacher instead of a threat. She didn't rewrite my story. She gave me new eyes to read it with. And once you see differently, you can't unsee. That's the kind of change one person can spark, not by force, but by presence. Not by tearing down your world, but by revealing the hidden dimensions within it. Shall I move forward and expand the fifth keynote as well? The idea that simplicity in love can be as powerful as complexity in science. In this same narrative voice, I didn't need to overthink, nor did I need to build walls. Simplicity itself became the strongest foundation. When something is truly simple, it becomes undeniable. It doesn't depend on persuasion or performance. It carries its own truth. What's striking is that simplicity in love doesn't shrink life. It enlarges it. By focusing only on the essentials, kindness, trust, presence, you suddenly find more energy for everything else. It's like clearing out a cluttered room. Once you remove what doesn't matter, space opens for what does. My vision, my work, my ambition, none of it diminished when love appeared. In fact, all of it expanded, because love stripped away the noise. In science, there's a principle known as elegance. The most powerful theories are not the most complicated, but the simplest ones that explain the most. Love works the same way. It doesn't pretend to answer every question or fix every problem, yet somehow it explains everything that truly matters. I began to see her not as someone adding layers to my life, but as someone revealing the very core of it. Love wasn't another project to manage or an equation to solve. It was the simplicity at the center that gave meaning to all the surrounding complexity. That's why I believe simplicity in love is as powerful as complexity in science. Both seek to uncover the essence. Science explains the universe. Love, in its simplest form, reminds us why we long to explore it at all. Now let me expand on the sixth keynote, how vulnerability can unlock strength in the same voice and rhythm. Vulnerability is a word that often unsettles people. We're taught to equate it with weakness, with risk, with exposure. In business, in technology, even in daily life, the instinct is to armor up, to project certainty and hide the cracks. But love taught me something paradoxical. Those cracks are not flaws, they're entry points. Vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength. It is the doorway to it. Before she entered my life, I carried myself like a fortress. Every wall was deliberately built, control through logic, safety through achievement, distance through constant busyness. It looked strong from the outside, but inside it was exhausting. The fortress kept out harm, yes, but it also kept out connection. Then she came along, and suddenly the fortress felt unnecessary, even obsolete. Her presence didn't demand perfection. It invited honesty, and in that honesty I found a strength I never knew I had. Vulnerability, I realized, creates trust. Think about it. When something is too polished, too flawless, it feels artificial. But when someone reveals their raw edges, their fears, their doubts, their unguarded self, it feels real. And realness builds bridges perfection never can. With her, I learned that admitting my uncertainties didn't make me smaller in her eyes. It deepened our bond. What I once labeled as risk turned out to be connection. It's like engineering. Stress testing, a structure doesn't just expose weaknesses, it shows where it can adapt, hold, and evolve. Vulnerability in love is that same stress test. It reveals fragility, but in doing so, it allows both partners to strengthen those places together. The bond grows not because nothing can break, but because both people are willing to carry the weight of what might. Here lies the paradox. Showing weakness often generates strength. By admitting I couldn't always carry the load alone, I discovered that together we could carry more than I ever imagined. That's the multiplier effect of vulnerability. It turns isolation into unity, fear into resilience. What I once believed would diminish me actually expanded me. She didn't want the curated version of me, polished for the world. She wanted the human version, the one who doubted, trembled, and sometimes failed. And in giving her that version, I unlocked a deeper confidence. Because once you've been loved at your most vulnerable, you stop fearing exposure. You realize strength isn't about never falling. It's about having someone there when you do. Now I see vulnerability as a hidden technology. It isn't flashy, loud, or obvious, but it changes the entire system of a relationship. By opening the door to weakness, you create the conditions for real strength to emerge. In my life, she was the one who turned that key. Moving into the 7th keynote, finding balance between ambition and affection in the same reflective rhythm. Balance is among the hardest things to achieve, especially when ambition runs high. The world celebrates extremes, sleepless work, endless hustle, sacrifice without pause. We admire those who give everything to their vision, but rarely acknowledge the cost. Love taught me that ambition without affection is incomplete. Ambition fuels achievement. Affection fuels meaning. Without both, you might succeed, but you won't feel whole. Before her, my life tilted heavily toward ambition. I measured my days in milestones, projects launched, risks taken. Every moment was a calculation. How much progress? How much closer to the next goal? Affection, connection, softness felt secondary, almost like distractions from the real work. She reframed that entirely. I realized affection isn't a distraction from ambition. It's what makes ambition sustainable. Think of it this way. Ambition is propulsion, the force that drives you forward. Affection is atmosphere, the environment that makes the journey livable. A rocket can reach space, but without life support it can't survive there. Likewise, a person can reach their goals, but without affection, those goals feel hollow when attained. She showed me affection doesn't slow you down, it ensures you want to keep going. What surprised me most was how much affection actually amplified ambition. A single word of encouragement from her gave me more energy than an entire night's sleep. A quiet evening together cleared the fog better than any strategy session. Affection replenished what ambition drained. It was like discovering a renewable energy source hidden in plain sight. Balance, I came to see, isn't about splitting life into halves, work here, love there, but about integration. Some days ambition leads, some days affection does. But they move together, not in opposition, but in harmony. She never asked me to shrink my dreams. She simply asked me to carry them alongside her. And in doing that, those dreams felt less like burdens and more like shared adventures. Unchecked ambition leads to burnout. Unchecked affection can lead to stagnation. But together, they correct each other. Ambition pulls you outward. Affection pulls you inward. Ambition says, let's build something new. Affection says, let's remember why it matters. Together, they form a rhythm that feels human, not mechanical. Now, I don't see balance as compromise, but as synergy. Affection didn't reduce my capacity to dream, it expanded it. Ambition didn't limit my capacity to love, it deepened it. And she was the reason those forces stopped colliding and started working together. In the end, balance isn't about choosing between ambition and affection. It's about recognizing that each one fuels the other. Without affection, ambition loses its soul. Without ambition, affection loses its spark. Together, they make life not only productive, but fulfilling. And in my journey, she was the one who made that balance possible. Finally, onto the 8th keynote, the truth that the right partner magnifies your vision rather than replacing it. There's a common myth that the right person completes you, as if you were missing a piece of yourself. But that's not reality. The right partner doesn't erase who you are or substitute their vision for yours. They magnify what's already within you. They take what you carry inside and amplify it, clearer, stronger, undeniable. And that's exactly what she did for me. She never appeared in my life as the solution to all things. I already had ambition, direction, and dreams. But with her presence, those dreams sharpened, became brighter, more possible. Before her, my vision felt like an echo in an empty chamber, carried, tested, and defended only by me. Solitude has its strength, yes, but it also has limits. One mind can only provide so much perspective. Then she walked in, and suddenly the vision was no longer mine alone. It became a lens we shared. She didn't ask me to give it up. Instead, she asked questions and gave belief that expanded it. It was like switching from a dull light bulb to a powerful spotlight, the same current, but infinitely clearer. Magnification is not dependence. It is resonance. She resonated with my purpose until everything I worked toward carried deeper meaning. When I wavered, her faith moved me forward. When I triumphed, her joy doubled the celebration. Even failure became softer to endure, because magnification isn't confined to victories. It exists in how someone helps you carry loss. With her, every fall felt cushioned, every rise elevated. And the irony is striking. She never stole the spotlight, never competed, never overshadowed. She simply stood beside it, amplifying it, sometimes with words, sometimes with silence, sometimes just by being someone I longed to make proud. That is true magnification, not loud, not forceful, but steady and undeniable. Think of a telescope. The stars are already burning alive in the universe, but without the right lens, they appear as faint dots. Add magnification and suddenly details emerge, patterns, colors, truths invisible before. That is what the right partner does. They don't create the stars. They help you witness them in full brilliance. With her, my vision wasn't diminished. It was clarified. It wasn't overshadowed. It was illuminated. And that distinction matters, because too often people fear love will erase them. The right partner doesn't reduce you, they expand you. They don't shrink your dream, they broaden the horizon around it. So when I reflect on how she transformed my life, it wasn't by rewriting my purpose. It was by magnifying it, so powerfully that it could no longer be ignored, abandoned, or doubted. That kind of magnification is what turns an individual dream into a shared destiny. And this leads to the deeper truth. Gratitude for love is also gratitude for life itself. Gratitude is often dismissed as a polite afterthought, a small word at the end of a moment. But in reality, it is the foundation of how we experience existence. Gratitude isn't just thank you. It is the recognition that everything we have and everything we are is intertwined with something larger than us. Love magnifies gratitude in a way nothing else can. To be deeply loved and to love in return transforms gratitude from a gesture into a way of living. Before her, I was grateful only in moments of achievement, milestones, breakthroughs, opportunities. But those feelings were brief, fading as I chased the next prize. With her, gratitude became constant. It lived in the simplest experiences: a shared meal, a midnight conversation, a glance across a room. These weren't conventional accomplishments, yet they carried more weight than any award. Love shifted gratitude from outcome-based to existence-based. I was no longer thankful just for what happened, but for who was present when it did. Gratitude for love is, at its core, gratitude for life. Because love makes life tangible. It shapes mornings, softens nights, gives depth to all the in-between. Without love, even triumph feels hollow. With love, even an ordinary day becomes extraordinary. She taught me that gratitude is not about glancing back at what you've received. It is about looking around now and realizing you already have more than enough. Gratitude builds resilience. When setbacks arrive, as they always do, it reframes them. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you ask, "What remains to be thankful for?" And if the answer is someone's presence, laughter, or love, the setback loses its power. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it anchors you so firmly that pain cannot define you. Before her, I credited luck, timing, or strategy. With her, I began to see life not as calculation, but as gift. I became grateful not only for her, but for every coincidence, every decision, every miracle that led to meeting her. Love awakens you to how fragile and miraculous life is, and gratitude becomes the only natural response. Here's the most unexpected part. The more grateful I became for her, the more grateful I became for everything else. Work, struggles, even failures shifted in meaning. Gratitude turned scarcity into abundance. Love turned gratitude into a daily rhythm. It wasn't about waiting for perfection. It was about noticing the perfection already hidden within imperfection. So when I say that gratitude for love is gratitude for life, I mean this. To love deeply is to finally see life clearly. It is to recognize that the greatest miracle isn't what we build or achieve. It is who we share it with. Every day with her reminds me that life itself is the gift, and gratitude is the only response worthy of it.